Our next CoSIDA Hall of Fame inductee has spent his entire 40-year career at the University of Dayton. That's where he's distinguished himself as one of the best in the business. When Doug arrived at the University of Dayton, he started his career as the head softball coach, and it was in that position that he still holds the record at Dayton for career winning percentage. When he transitioned into the Sports Information Communications office, it was there he started recording history as opposed to making history. A member of the CoSIDA Academic All-America Committee since 1993, Doug is a former recipient of the Bob Kenworthy Community Service Award. Doug has also served as a media coordinator for more than, get this, 100 NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament games at UD Arena since 1982. He was also part of the local administrative team at Dayton that made men's basketball history in 2001 by hosting 10 postseason NCAA and NIT games in 8 days at the Flyers Arena. We welcome our next CoSIDA Hall of Fame inductee, Doug Hostchild.
Gosh, there are so many moments that it's hard to pick just a handful. Certainly when I first started out in 1983, it was my first year as the basketball contact. We went to the Elite Eight, and I had so many people help me because I was, wet behind the ears, even though my old boss was still here at the university. So that was just a whirlwind. And then later on, we went back to the Elite Eight, and I got to appreciate it a little bit more, even though obviously, 30 years in between the two trips were certainly a lot of things happened differently in the job. But gosh, I'd say all the hosting we've done here, I really enjoy hosting NCAA tournaments. We've had a good amount of academic All-Americans, and that's another passion of mine, and the fact that I've been able to be a part of all those kids getting the honors that they richly deserve is pretty exciting as well. Certainly being picked by my peers to go into the Hall of Fame is another great moment. I mean, it's just, it's hard to get my arms around just to look at the names of the people who are in the Hall of Fame and to think that, somebody who doesn't know me is going to look and think I'm just as good as those people are. So I guess that's the high points. There's just so many. But I guess that's where I would at least start out when you want to talk about some of the best moments in my career. I think what I'm most proud of are the people who I've worked with who have gone on to bigger and better things, whether it's people who I've worked with as professionals or some of the students. We've had more than 50 people come through our office as students who've gone on to work in the business, maybe not directly in sports information or athletics communications, but they've gone on into sports. And I think everyone in our office feels like we're part of the educational process. So for us to be part of that is what I'm most proud of, is the relationships and watching people come in thinking they know everything and realizing by the time they leave, they've still got a lot to learn, but appreciating what we've taught them. I just got an email this afternoon from one of our seniors who's staying in the business, and it was just great to hear from him, even though it was just he just graduated. Yeah, well, that's where I was. I mean, I was a student working in the office. We were a small, tightly knit athletic department back then, and I got a lot of responsibility. So we try to do that with our kids. We don't just leave them out on a limb, but we definitely try to give them as much responsibility as they want to have. Being a lifer at Dayton is not uncommon. There are so many people who came here as students and found their way to a profession that they love at a place they love, all across campus. At one point, not too long ago, we had just in the football program, our head coach, our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator, our trainer, our secretary, and our football contact, myself, had all been there 25 years at least. It's a place that really gets its hooks into you. It's definitely a place that is community oriented, family oriented, and I had opportunities to look to go to other places, but never really jumped at it. just because people went to bat early in my career. People went to bat for me to be a young guy in this job, and I've just put my roots in and stayed here ever since. I mean, I met my wife working as a student in the sports information office. All of my kids attended Dayton. All but one of my kids and my wife, or when we host the first four, we're all involved. It's just a place that has allowed me to be myself, but has also taught me so much and allowed me to grow. Gosh, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, the first thing I would say is lose the perm. But apart from that, I would tell my younger self to make sure that you enjoy it as much as you can. I remember we hosted a first four that virtually everybody on my volunteer staff were people who had either worked at Dayton on their way through professionally, or we just happened to have a year where we had a lot of students be able to come back, and we had a pretty big student staff that year. So almost all of our people were Dayton, and I was too busy to get a picture. I was too busy to think about getting a picture. I didn't turn down the picture. I just never thought of it to begin with. So I would tell my younger self just to take a moment and maybe enjoy it a little bit more, maybe hang on to those press passes at the certain events that everybody wants to remember. But gosh, other than that, I would just say get ready and have some fun, because it's been a lot of fun, and it's been very rewarding being at a place that has meant so much to me.
Yeah, well, when it comes to thanking people, you always hold your breath and you're afraid you're going to forget somebody. But I'd much rather give it a shot, and if I forget somebody, I'll just catch up to them later. The people who know me know that I'm usually just in a hurry. But gosh, the first person who gave me a start in athletics, because I was on a journalism track, is Elaine Dryden, a fantastic coach and administrator who was able to create a pretty robust women's side of the athletic division here at Dayton. And just by scraping things together and being opportunistic, and I guess in my case, I was the first person who was only doing women's sports information. And she noticed me being around the basketball team and kind of recruited me in to do some things that she was trying to get off her plate. And then there was an opportunity for me here at Dayton to move fully into the entire sports information office. She certainly didn't stand in my way. So without her, I wouldn't be on this path. And then when I moved into the mainstream athletic department, Gene Schill was my mentor and my predecessor. And he gave me a lot of responsibility and watched me stumble once in a while and guided me over those hurdles. And after that, it's a cast of thousands. I mean, this is such a collaborative business, and there are so many people who've helped me. I mean, I could go just around the teams that we played, and guys like Paul Just, guys like Steve Snap at Ohio State, but there was nobody who was a bigger influence on me than Dave Young at Miami. Dave really took me under his wing when I started reaching out and getting a little bit more into this business, and I was able to help him a bit when he went through some health issues. And another member of this Hall of Fame class of 2020 is Kent Charrington, and Kent was at Miami, and gosh, Kent could tell you stories on Dave forever. And that little chuckle of Dave's is probably, looking down upon us both, and we got picked for the Hall of Fame in the same year. Certainly you can't succeed in much of anything without a great family, and in this business particularly. You've got to have the support of your family, and luckily for me, my future wife, when I met her in the sports information office as a student, she actually predates me working at Dayton Athletics. My wife Patty, she came into this with her eyes wide open. She knew how the hours, and she knew that it's a lifestyle as much as a profession. And we've raised 3 wonderful kids who are each other's best friends, and they're good people, and they've all pitched in at times, helping out on the stat crew, helping at games over holidays, and they've loved doing it. So it's as much fun as I've had doing this job. They've had fun doing it too, and I've had fun watching them. And then in our office, I say over and over how proud we are of the people who have gone through our office and moved on to other things, but in the profession, in athletics. And there are so many of them, and so many of them, both students and colleagues, have become lifelong friends. So, all of them together have created what you're looking at here. I mean, all of them together have helped me become who I am. And, I could say thank you to them and thank you to so many more people. Well, first, Bill, congratulations on both honors. But there's no question they're very rewarding. Nobody goes into this business, looking to be honored. And it's kind of ironic, I guess, that these honors pretty much are built on top of the honors of other people that we've worked with. But it's a tremendous honor, and it's very rewarding. And I kind of felt like the Hall of Fame is something you do your job, and if somebody notices it and you do your job well, somebody recognizes you. But to me, the Lester Jordan Award, it's over and above your normal day job, and so in some ways it's even more rewarding than the Hall of Fame to me. Well, I think across the committee, the people who are willing to do the work, I think you find that Academic All-America would be a passion for them. So, certainly is for me. I've got such respect for the dedication of the student athletes to not only excel on the field, but also do well in the classroom, do fantastic in the classroom. And we've been lucky enough to have a decent amount in my time here, and they're some of the kids that I respect the most of all the kids who come through Dayton that I've had the pleasure of working with. But I guess because of the passion aspect, it's one of those things is if you have to ask about how much time it takes, it's probably not for you. It's along the lines of if you have to ask the price tag of something, maybe you don't want to buy it. But for the people who are on the fence, I would say that it's very rewarding. If you're interested in giving back to what I think is the most important thing we do as an organization, because it directly affects student athletes. And the other side of it is you do get a chance to, if you're fortunate enough to be at an institution that has some academic All-Americans, you get to interact with them and you get to understand, how difficult it is for these people to achieve such an honor. And just be a part of that is an honor in itself for me. Yeah, and I would say that certainly if they've earned CoSIDA honors in the past, that should be right up front because you're comparing apples and apples then. I'm also a fan of team accomplishments. I mean, the goal is to be successful as a team. So if your student athletes that you're nominating happen to have been on a very good team, that's worth mentioning because that's the first goal when you play a sport is you want to win. So I think sometimes people overlook that and they get worried about career highs and stuff like that. To me, maybe it's a personal preference as I'm going through the nominations and doing my own voting, but I'm looking for apples and apples. So I'm looking for CoSIDA awards, and then also I wouldn't shortchange team accomplishments because that's what they're out there for. Yeah, and I would say look for something that differentiates your student athlete nominee. I mean, with all due respect, almost everybody who's nominated is on the dean's list. So if you need to save some characters, that's probably a place you can do that. But yeah, try to differentiate them, but also, like going back to what I said, don't be afraid of pointing out that they were part of success on the team level, or they were part of, if your school set a record for best GPA across all athletes for a semester. Well, they were a part of that, so that helps differentiate them. Yeah, and Bill pretty much stole a lot of the people that I was going to thank, but I never had the pleasure of meeting Lester Jordan, but I think I'd have to thank him. It's like everything about going to the moon is difficult, but usually the hardest part, I would expect the hardest part, is just getting off the ground. And Lester Jordan and his colleagues back in the day got this program off the ground, and without him we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so if somebody from his family happens to be tuning in, which I can't believe they would be, but if they are, gosh, thanks to them for having somebody in their family who had the vision to have something like this for our student athletes.
From the University of Dayton, Doug Hostchild.